Hey traders, welcome to this week's FX commodities and crypto update. Starting with the dollar, we have seen a nice little up push from the dollar that we were looking for. Dollar pairs are doing really well, dollar trades are doing really well. And so far, it looks like things are going to be moving in the direction we were looking for and should continue to move in that direction. I have a little bit of concern for the DXY and mostly driven by the euro, the possibility that what we're seeing here is actually just part of a bigger corrective A, B, C. So maybe a dip down towards kind of 90 before taking off to the upside, which puts our euro trade at risk. Just something we need to consider moving forward. But for now, I'm just going to see how things play out and just manage the trade accordingly. When you look at the euro chart, you'll see it how, structurally speaking, we've done enough for the C of B wave to kind of get close towards that 0.618, and then maybe potentially you could see a move something along these lines up towards, like I said, kind of 122 before we see that downside. So definitely in the region that would stop us out if we were to see that price action. Give me a second here. But at the same time, when I look at some of these other pairs, it's not something I'm too concerned about, because when say we look at the pound US dollar, the pound just looks like it's ready to run to the downside and should continue running to the downside. When we look at the Aussie, we're seeing the same thing, coming out of a decent lower time frame, running flat, getting some good downside, and should continue to move in that direction as well. And then you look at the US dollar CAD, structurally speaking, same thing. If we zoom in, we can actually see a similar structure to the pound, but I don't see how this is a B wave. I don't see this as a B wave structure. When you look at the size and the structure itself and the dynamics of the structure, I don't see how this would be your A wave down, and this would be a B wave for a C wave to come. So that kind of negates the euro thesis, but it may just be euro based, maybe euro centric, that we start to see this euro bounce before it sinks once more. So just something we need to take into consideration. And again, even on the euro, this B wave is not as big as you would like it to be. The structure isn't as complex as you'd like it to be. So I still believe our US dollar trades are safe and should continue to run in profit and should continue to do well for us. So other than that, we'll just be managing those trades. Looks like the US dollar may just be having a bit of a bounce or a bit of a weak day, but I don't see that more than anything other than just a temporary weakness rather than a bigger structure. So that's looking good. And the US dollar yen, just really wanting this to break the lows, so we just have to manage this trade. We still have our entry order above the highs for the long, but I was hoping for this to break the lows and bring this entry order lower down once we get the structural confirmation. But right now there's no confirmation, so we just have to patiently wait and see how things play out. And again, hopefully some of these other US dollar pairs will be nicely in the money, so we can move those to break even and then add to the risk by adding to the US dollar yen trade, because we really like this trade to the upside as well. And then US dollar Swiss just remains a mess. So again, just sitting on the sidelines for that. Actually going to take this off the watch list for now. Silver still looks good to me for downside, continues to run pretty well. Downside targets are much bigger than this, so don't be confused by where the target is. The proper target is in the single figures. So we're just watching this from now on the lower time frames to confirm downside. A couple of things I don't like about it, but at the same time, there's a couple of things I do like about it, and the downside that we're getting is good confirmation of that. Be a little bit concerned in this region here. It's a potential supply zone for a bounce to the highs, and that would make this a kind of big ABC correction for further upside moving forward. So we're concerned about that from that region, but for now, going to let that run, maybe move to break even later on. Gold continues to chop around. Actually starting to believe what we're seeing in gold is a bit of an expanding triangle, the beginnings of an expanding triangle. When you look at the figures, you get 1, 2, 3 up, A wave, 1, 2, 3 down, B wave. Looks like a 1, 2, 3 up, C wave forming, going back up towards this 1830 region, then we should get another leg down, a leg up, and all of that's just going to be a big expanding triangle potentially. But it's very early days, very speculative of me to say that. So we just have to wait and see how things develop moving forward. You might find it actually develops into a triangle and stays in this 1800 region for quite some time and then breaks out of that. But regardless of what's happening here, I still see downside in gold moving forward. Copper, quite a big bounce that we saw towards the end of the week. That's just kind of a break and retest of this big neckline, head and shoulders neckline. Structurally speaking, I don't think there's much change. I still think it looks good for downside. And again, I just think this is a temporarily push higher. And we should see this move lower. That's a good confirmation that we started to see that deflation kick in, disinflationary environment, which will obviously push the dollar higher. Then euro pound, or euro pound trade still doing well. Structurally speaking, looking good in terms of moving to break even. I think it's about that time we can start looking for break even. If you want to stick to the rules, you want to see a break of 86.02 before you move to break even. And you see how those euro pairs are starting to bounce, and that's exactly why we think the euro US dollar may bounce as well. So we'll just be watching that. Look at the euro yen, seeing a temporary bounce in the euro yen as well. You guys remember last week we were looking for that bounce up towards this 129 region and a potential sell from there, kind of a short-term day trade sell down towards 126 region, 12670, somewhere around there. So a pretty decent structure, not the best ever, but it is decent in terms of a structured day trader. The members know we're looking for structured day trade in this region. And then when you look for the downside of that structured day trade, you could see how, depending where we top out, you could get a decent move out of that if you can get a good entry. And when you tie it in with the higher time frame structure, you should see that extend down towards this 126.70 region. So that's why I like that trade as a structured day trade. And we'll be watching for that this week. Potentially, looks like maybe tomorrow that trade will come into effect. So members will be watching for that tomorrow and dealing with that in tomorrow's strategy session. Euro Swiss, still kind of chopping around. Go to the higher time frames. So we're still waiting for this to turn. This is a game of patience. Again, all we're just waiting for is this push higher and confirmation of the turn, and then we can start to look for that long trade. So for now, the structure is still intact and just allowing that to run, see how things play out there. Euro Oz. Again, we said we were looking for potential entries. This is another long-term game, so just waiting for a structural shift there to get into the long trade. Pound Swiss. We had an entry order below the lows. We were looking for a decent structure here to maybe move that into corrective structure. I didn't have an entry order here. I did have an entry order here, but I removed it because I'd really like to see a corrective structure form first before getting into the trade, considering the size of the structure that we've seen. Although you can, or if you have had that entry order in and it has been triggered, keeping a nice wide stop loss will work for you here. The structure is still good. We're still expecting downside, and things are looking good for continuation to the downside. So if you are in that trade, that's still a good trade. Maybe slightly underwater now because you just got taken in. But I would like to just see at least a lower time frame correction before entering this trade, something along those lines, along these lines before really committing to that trade. Pound yen, it's another one, entry order below the lows. Again, I want to just see a corrective structure before I reaffirm that lower, that entry order below the lows. So just patiently waiting for that to play out. Swiss yen is another one. Again, just patiently taking its time, but still looks good. ABC, maybe ABCDE expanding triangle that's formed here now, as opposed to, I'm just going to the hourly to show you the structure we're looking at here, the lower time frame. ABCDE, and then, or it's obviously potentially just a ABC that's formed here. But either way, the entry order below the lows is still valid and still forms part of the higher structure. So I'm still liking this trade. I still like this entry order. And this is exactly what we were saying for kind of Swiss yen pounds, pound yen, is you want to see a big push, wait for that little corrective structure, and then put the entry order below the lows. Again, the entry order below these lows is still valid as a higher time frame play. So watching that too, but that's looking good. And I prefer the Swiss yen over the, say, the pound yen. So I'm liking that trade better. Aussie dollar yen running really well. As you can see, big meltdown out of our expanding triangle. Didn't get into this one, but if you did, it was a really good trade. A couple of things I didn't like about it, but the results have been pretty good. I'll just be cautious here and look to move this to break even fairly early. Because of the structure, it's not very clear, but you're getting pretty clean downside there. CAD yen, little ABCDE that we were talking about starting to play out. We saw the D wave break the lows. Now we're getting a bit of an E pop. So if you're looking to get into CAD yen, entry order below the lows is also valid there. New Zealand dollar yen, got into this one. Structurally speaking, I really like the trade coming off the highs. When you look at Aussie dollar yen and how well that reacted, this should continue to move well. Slightly underwater at the moment, but I still think it's a good trade. I preferred it over Aussie yen. So New Zealand dollar yen looking pretty good. And then our US dollar ZAR trade is running really nicely into profit, coming out of this nice big structure. Another concern on this pair that this is all forming part of just a big, excuse me, ABC corrective structure. You may see a big dip from here, but that's why I'm just going to keep my stop where it is, because if we do get that dip, it shouldn't go near our stop loss, and we should just see it move back towards break even and then a rally from there. But structurally speaking, I still like the move to continue to the upside. So we just have to see how this is going to play out. But so far, so good. UK oil, really good structure at the moment. We did say we want to see a break of these lows, and at the end of the week, we saw that big dip down. And if we zoom out, you can just see how beautiful this little corrective structure is. So right now, we're looking for those long dollar or long oil trades. A little bit early still waiting for confirmation of the turn. Once we get confirmation, we'll definitely be looking to get long oil in this region. And then moving into crypto space, Bitcoin has broken through 50K. I sold out my Bitcoin at around about 44. I was concerned that we were seeing a topping out of this higher time frame structure, but it actually looks like this is just forming part of an impulse, ABC impulse corrective structure to the upside. So I've gone back to being bullish crypto, and message to members yesterday was to buy Ethereum in this kind of 3,200 region. So that's now gone nicely into the money and made up for any of the losses we saw in Bitcoin. And as you can see, we're looking at it structurally. It's not ideal. I mean, I don't like this corrective structure. I don't see the corrective B wave in there, but these cryptos just like to run and run and run. So I think being long Ethereum is a good trade here. And then Cardano, just a painful trade for me. I was long at 140. Long at 140, it closed out at around about 140 again for break even, and then we just continued to see this accelerate to the upside. I was really concerned about the exchanges, and the news that was coming around regulation, things like that. So I moved off my Cardano off, moved it into Bitcoin, but sadly this is just a run to the upside. I still believe in this project in a big way in the long run, so I'll be looking to get into any dips that we find here. And actually looking to stake the Cardano to take it off the exchange, because that's what I should have done in the first place. So a big mistake I made there. We'll just have to see how things are going to play out moving forward. So cool, guys, as you can see, it's good opportunities on the table. Members, we will see you in the members area, but so far trades are looking really good that we executed last week. So we'll be keeping an eye on those. Yeah, hopefully they continue. Cool, guys, have a good week. If you're not a member, check out cynicalytics.com, get to the Trading Academy, and they will teach you everything you need to know about analyzing charts in the most predictive way, the most accurate way of predicting charts possible, all that's in the markets today. And I say that from experience, from 10 years of experience researching all of this. So believe me when I say it. And as you can see, the results are showing. And if they don't show in this presentation, feel free to check out the longer term analysis in our YouTube channel for 2021. You can see how this is playing out exactly as we suspected it to, because that's how the structures were laying it out to be. It's cool, guys. Have a great week.